I was 9 months pregnant, 3 days from my due date, when a woman I'd never seen showed up at our house at 7 in the morning holding an envelope that would shatter every truth my husband had ever told me. She was standing on our porch in the autumn rain, her dark hair plastered to her face, mascara running down her cheeks like she'd been crying for hours. She wore jeans and a Georgetown sweatshirt, and she was clutching that manila envelope against her chest like it contained the secrets of the universe. "Can I help you?" I asked through the screen door, one hand instinctively moving to my swollen belly where my daughter was kicking, impatient to enter a world that was about to become infinitely more complicated. "Are you Megan?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "Megan Parker?" "Married to David Parker?" My heart started beating faster. Something about the way she said my husband's name, the intimacy and pain wrapped around those two simple words, made my skin prickle. "Yes. Who are you?" "My name is Rachel," she said. "Rachel Cunningham. I used to be Rachel Parker. I'm David's first wife." The world tilted sideways. David had told me about his first marriage, of course. High school sweethearts who'd gotten married too young and divorced after 3 years when they realized they wanted different things. It had been amicable, he'd said. They'd both moved on. Ancient history. But he'd never mentioned that she looked like this, young and beautiful and desperate. And he'd certainly never mentioned that she might show up on our doorstep looking like her world was ending. "Okay," I said slowly. "What are you doing here, Rachel?" "I need you to see something," she said, holding up the envelope. "Before you have his baby, before you bring another child into this world with him, you need to know the truth about what he did, about what he's capable of." My daughter kicked hard against my ribs as if she could sense the danger, the storm about to break over all of us. "I think you should leave," I said, but my voice was shaking. "Please," Rachel said, and the desperation in that single word made me hesitate. "Please, just look at what's in this envelope. Look at it, and then I'll leave. I'll disappear forever if that's what you want. But you deserve to know. His daughter deserves to know." "His daughter?" I repeated. "David doesn't have a daughter. He doesn't have any children." Rachel's face crumpled. "That's what he told you? That he doesn't have children?" "He said you couldn't have kids," I said, the words tumbling out. "He said it was one of the reasons you divorced. You wanted children and couldn't have them, and it created too much pain in the marriage." She laughed then, a broken sound that was more sob than anything else. "Oh my God, oh my God, he told you I was infertile? He told you that lie?" "What are you talking about?" She opened the envelope with shaking hands and pulled out a piece of paper. She pressed it against the screen door so I could see it. It was a birth certificate. Official, stamped, real. Name: Lily Ann Parker. Born August 15th, 14 years ago. Mother: Rachel Ann Cunningham. Father: David Michael Parker. I stared at those words until they blurred. 14 years old. David and I had been married for 3 years, which meant this child, this Lily, had been born long before we met. Had been alive and breathing and growing while David was dating me, proposing to me, marrying me, telling me about his past like it was something clean and simple and finished. "That's not possible," I whispered. "It's very possible," Rachel said. "I got pregnant right before David filed for divorce. I didn't know yet. When I found out 2 weeks later, I called him and told him. I thought maybe it would change things. Maybe we could work it out. But he said he didn't want to be a father. He said a baby would ruin his career, his life, everything he'd worked for. He told me to have an abortion." "And you didn't." "I couldn't," she said simply. "I wanted her, even if he didn't, even if it meant raising her alone. So I told him fine, I'd do it alone. And he said that was perfect. He made me sign papers, legal documents saying he was terminating his parental rights, that he'd never contact us, that he wanted nothing to do with our daughter. He paid child support for 2 years, the bare minimum, and then he stopped. Just stopped. And when I tried to contact him, he'd changed his number, disappeared. Like we never existed." My legs felt weak. I opened the screen door and sank down onto the porch steps, not caring that the rain was soaking through my nightgown. "Why are you here?" I asked. "After 14 years, why show up now?" Rachel sat down beside me, leaving a careful distance between us. "Because Lily is sick," she said, her voice breaking. "She has leukemia, acute myeloid leukemia. She needs a bone marrow transplant, and I'm not a match. My family isn't a match. We've been searching the registry for 6 months, and there's no match. Her doctor said her best chance is a sibling, a biological sibling." Understanding crashed over me like a wave. I looked down at my belly, at the daughter I'd been dreaming about for 9 months, the daughter David and I had painted a nursery for, chosen a name for, made plans for. "You want my baby to be tested," I said numbly. "I'm not asking you to give me your child," Rachel said quickly. "I'm not asking for anything except a chance, a test. If your daughter is a match, maybe just some cord blood at birth, or when she's older, if you're willing bone marrow. I know it's insane. I know I have no right to ask. But Lily is dying, and David is her father, and your baby is her half-sister, and it might be her only chance." I sat there in the rain. 9 months pregnant, learning that my husband had a teenage daughter he'd abandoned, that he'd lied to me about everything, that the child inside me might be the only thing standing between her half-sister and death. "Does David know you're here?" I asked. "No. I tracked him down through social media. I saw your wedding photos, your announcement about the baby. I've been trying to get up the courage to contact you for months. And then yesterday, Lily's doctor said we're running out of time. She needs the transplant soon, or—" Rachel's voice broke. I had to try. I had to do something. "I need to talk to my husband," I said, standing up slowly. My whole body felt like it was moving through water, heavy and slow and wrong. "Will you tell him I was here?" "Yes." "He'll deny it," Rachel said. "He'll say I'm lying. That Lily isn't his, that I'm some crazy ex trying to cause trouble." "Is there proof?" I asked. "Besides the birth certificate?" She pulled out her phone and showed me photos. A dark-haired girl with David's eyes, David's smile, David's sharp cheekbones. A girl who looked so much like him it was impossible to deny. Then she showed me the court documents, divorce papers, child support payment records, text messages from 14 years ago where David told Rachel he wanted nothing to do with her mistake. "I'll be at the Hampton Inn on Route 33, Rachel said, standing up. "Room 214. If you need to reach me, if you want to help, if you just want to talk. I'll be there for 3 days, and then I have to get back to Lily. She's with my mother right now, and she's scared. And I promised her I'd come back with hope." She walked down the porch steps, then turned back. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm sorry to do this to you when you're about to have a baby. I'm sorry your husband lied to you. I'm sorry any of this is happening. But if you have even a shred of compassion, please don't punish Lily for David's sins. She's just a kid. She's just a sick kid who wants to live." I watched her drive away in a blue Honda with a cracked windshield and a faded "My child is an honor student" bumper sticker that made my heart break into 1,000 pieces. Then I went inside and waited for my husband to come home. David got back from his morning run at 8:30, sweaty and cheerful, kissing my forehead and asking how the baby was doing, talking about maybe going out for breakfast. Completely oblivious to the fact that his past had just walked up to our front door and blown our entire life apart. "We need to talk," I said. He must have heard something in my voice because his smile faded. "What's wrong? Is it the baby? Are you having contractions?" Rachel was here. I watched the color drain from his face, watched his eyes go wide and then carefully blank, watched him become someone I didn't recognize. "Rachel," he repeated carefully. "My ex-wife Rachel?" "Your ex-wife Rachel, who has a 14-year-old daughter named Lily. Your daughter. The one you told me didn't exist." He sat down heavily on the couch. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. Then he ran his hands through his hair and let out a long breath. "What did she tell you?" "The truth," I said. "Something you apparently never bothered to do. She told me you have a daughter who's sick, a daughter you abandoned when you divorced her mother." "It's not that simple," he said. "Then explain it to me," I said, and I was surprised by how calm my voice sounded when everything inside me was screaming. Explain to me how you have a 14-year-old child you never mentioned. Explain to me how you told me your ex-wife was infertile when she was actually pregnant with your baby. Explain to me how any of this makes sense. I was 23 years old, he said. I was a kid myself. Rachel and I were already getting divorced when she told me she was pregnant. I didn't want to be a father. I wasn't ready. I told her that honestly. She chose to have the baby anyway, knowing I didn't want to be involved. So you just walked away? Signed away your rights and pretended she didn't exist? I did what I thought was best, he said defensively. I didn't want to be some resentful father who was there out of obligation. I thought a clean break was better for everyone. Better for you, you mean? Yes, he said, and at least he had the decency to look ashamed. Better for me. I was building my career. I wanted a fresh start. I wanted to move forward, not be tied to a mistake from my past. She's not a mistake, I said, my voice rising. She's a child, your child, a human being who shares your DNA and has your eyes and is dying from leukemia. His head snapped up. What? Rachel came here because Lily is sick, I said. She needs a bone marrow transplant. Rachel isn't a match. Her family isn't a match. They need a sibling. They need our daughter. David went very still. No. No? No, he repeated. Absolutely not. That's not our problem. I stared at him like I'd never seen him before, and maybe I hadn't. Maybe the man I'd married was just a carefully constructed fiction, and this cold stranger was who he'd been all along. She's 14 years old and she's dying, I said slowly, like I was explaining something to a child, and our daughter might be able to save her life. Our daughter is not a medicine cabinet for some kid I don't know, David said. I'm not putting you through a traumatic birth experience just to harvest our baby's cord blood for Rachel's daughter. Her name is Lily, I said, and she's your daughter too. On paper, maybe. Biologically, yes, but I'm not her father. I haven't been her father for 14 years. I have no obligation to her. You have every obligation to her, I said, and I was crying now, hot tears streaming down my face. You created her. You brought her into this world, and then you abandoned her, and now she's dying and you won't even consider helping her? It's not that I won't help, he said, but his voice was uncertain now. It's that I can't. I can't suddenly have a 14-year-old daughter show up in our lives. What would people think? What would my colleagues say? My family? Who cares what people think? I shouted. A child is dying, David. Your child. And you're worried about what your golf buddies will say? You don't understand, he said desperately. This would ruin everything. My reputation, my career, our life together. People would know I abandoned my daughter. They'd judge me. They'd judge us. They'd be right to judge you, I said quietly, because you did abandon her, and you lied to me about it for 3 years. I was protecting you, he said. I didn't want you to think I was some deadbeat dad. I wanted a clean slate with you. You don't get a clean slate from abandoning your child, I said. You just get a conscience that should keep you up at night. I walked to the window and looked out at the street where Rachel had driven away an hour ago. My daughter was kicking again, rolling and pushing like she was trying to fight her way out, like she knew something was wrong and wanted to be part of the solution. I'm going to get tested, I said. When the baby is born, I'm going to save her cord blood and test it to see if it's a match for Lily. Like hell you are, David said, standing up. I'm her father. I have a say in this. You lost your say when you lied to me, I said, turning to face him. You lost your say when you pretended your daughter didn't exist. You lost your say when you chose your reputation over a child's life. Megan, please, he said, and he was begging now. Please don't do this. Don't bring her into our lives. It'll ruin everything. Everything is already ruined, I said. You ruined it 14 years ago when you walked away from Lily. You ruined it when you lied to me. You ruined it the moment you decided your comfort was more important than your child's life. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know if I can stay married to someone who would let his daughter die rather than face his own mistakes. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You'd leave me? Now? When you're about to have our baby? I'd leave you for her, I said, looking down at my belly, because she deserves a father who would move heaven and earth to save her life. And you're not that man. You've proven that twice now. David opened his mouth to respond, but I held up my hand. I need you to leave, I said. I need you to pack a bag and go stay somewhere else for a few days while I figure out what I'm going to do. This is my house, too. And this is my body carrying your child, I said. And right now, I can't stand to look at you. So please, just go. He went. I stood in our living room, in the house we'd bought together, surrounded by the life we'd built, and I felt it all crumbling around me like sand castles in the tide. Then I called the Hampton Inn and asked for room 214. Rachel answered on the first ring. Hello? It's Megan, I said. Can we talk? An hour later, I was sitting in a hotel room that smelled like stale coffee and cleaning products, looking at photos of a girl I'd never met but who shared my unborn daughter's blood. This is Lily when she was 5, Rachel said, handing me her phone. At her kindergarten graduation. She was so proud of that little cap and gown. The girl in the photo was gap-toothed and grinning, holding a diploma like it was made of gold. This is her at 10, at her first dance recital. She loves ballet, or she did before she got too sick to dance. Lily in a pink tutu, mid-leap, her face full of joy and freedom. This is her last month in the hospital. She'd just finished another round of chemo. Lily, with a bald head and hollow eyes, trying to smile for the camera but looking so tired, so worn down by the weight of fighting for her life. I touched the screen gently, tracing the outline of her face. David's face. My daughter's half-sister. Tell me about her, I said. Not the sick version, the real version. Rachel's whole face transformed. She's funny, she said. Quick-witted and sharp. She loves to read, especially fantasy novels. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She's kind to everyone, even when they're not kind to her. She volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends. She makes these elaborate pancakes on Sunday mornings, trying to create perfect Mickey Mouse shapes. She's terrible at it, but she never gives up. She sounds wonderful. She is, Rachel said, and tears were streaming down her face. She's the best thing I've ever done. The best thing David and I ever made together, even if he doesn't see it that way. He's scared, I said, though I wasn't sure why I was defending him. He's selfish, Rachel corrected gently. He always has been. I loved him desperately when we were young, but even then, I knew he was the kind of person who would always choose himself first. I just didn't think he'd choose himself over his own child. Neither did I admitted. We sat in silence for a moment, two women connected by the same man's failures, by the children he'd created and the choices he'd made. What happens if my baby isn't a match? I asked. What happens to Lily? We keep trying, Rachel said, but her voice was hollow. We keep searching the registry. We keep hoping. But her doctors say time is running out. Without a transplant in the next few months, She couldn't finish the sentence. I'll do the cord blood, I said. When my daughter is born, I'll save the cord blood and get it tested. If it's a match, Lily can have it. Thank you, Rachel breathed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if that's not enough, I continued, if she needs more than cord blood, if she needs bone marrow when she's older, I'll make sure my daughter knows about Lily. I'll make sure she knows she has a half-sister who needed help. I'll let her decide when she's old enough to understand. Rachel was sobbing now, clutching my hand. You don't know what this means. You don't know what hope feels like when you've been drowning for so long. I'm doing it for Lily, I said. Not for David, not even for you, really. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. And because my daughter deserves to grow up knowing that we chose compassion over comfort. I left the hotel room with Rachel's phone number saved in my phone and a picture of Lily Ann Parker saved in my heart. 3 days later, I went into labor. David came to the hospital because, despite everything, he was still my husband and the father of my baby. He held my hand through the contractions and whispered encouragement and pretended that everything was fine, that we weren't standing on the edge of a cliff waiting to see which way we'd fall. Our daughter was born at 3:47 in the morning on a Tuesday that felt like the end of the world and the beginning of something new all at once. She was perfect. 8 pounds, 2 ounces. A full head of dark hair and eyes that would probably turn brown like her father's. Tiny fingers that wrapped around mine with surprising strength. "What should we name her?" David asked, holding her carefully like she might break. We'd had a name picked out for months, Emma Rose Parker. But standing there in that hospital room, looking at this tiny person who might hold the key to saving her half-sister's life, I realized Emma Rose wasn't quite right anymore. "Hope," I said. "Her name is Hope." David looked at me, understanding flickering in his eyes. "Hope," he repeated quietly. "Hope Lily Parker," I said, after her sister. His face crumpled. "Megan." "She deserves to know," I said. "Someday, when she's old enough, she deserves to know that she came into this world carrying hope for someone else. That she was born connected to something bigger than just our little family." The doctors collected the cord blood. They processed it, tested it, sent it off to be analyzed against Lily's genetic markers. We waited. I brought Hope home to a house that felt empty, even though it was full of baby equipment and flowers from well-wishers and the sounds of an infant crying in the night. David moved back in, sleeping in the guest room, existing in the same space as us, but not really being present. We were polite to each other, careful, like we were strangers sharing an elevator and trying not to make eye contact. 2 weeks after Hope was born, my phone rang. It was Rachel. "It's a match," she said, and I could hear the tears in her voice. "The cord blood is a match. Not perfect, but close enough. They're saying it could work." "They're saying it might save her." I sat down heavily on the couch, clutching Hope against my chest. "When?" "Next month. They need to prepare Lily's system, get her ready for the transplant. But they're optimistic. For the first time in a year, they're actually optimistic." "I'm glad," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. "I'm so glad, Rachel." "Can I meet her?" Rachel asked hesitantly. "Can I meet Hope? I want to look her in the eyes and tell her thank you. I want Lily to know who her sister is." "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Yes, you can meet her." David was furious when I told him. "You're inviting them into our home? You're introducing our daughter to them?" "They're family," I said simply. "Whether you like it or not, whether you acknowledge it or not, Lily is Hope's half-sister, and Hope saved her life." "That creates a bond." "You're ruining everything," he said. "No," I corrected. "You already did that. I'm just trying to build something good from the wreckage." Rachel and Lily came to our house on a Saturday afternoon in November. Lily was thin and pale, wearing a hat to cover her baldness, but her eyes, David's eyes, were bright with curiosity and hope. "This is Hope," I said, holding my daughter out so Lily could see her. "Your sister." Lily reached out with a trembling hand and touched Hope's tiny fingers. "Hi, little sister," she whispered. "Thank you for saving my life." Hope grabbed Lily's finger and held on tight, and I watched these two girls, separated by 14 years and a lifetime of choices and secrets, connect for the first time. Rachel was crying. I was crying. Even David, standing in the doorway watching from a distance, had tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said suddenly, his voice breaking. "Lily, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I wasn't the father you deserved." Lily looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "I don't need you to be my father now. I have a mom who's been both parents my whole life, but maybe you could just be someone who cares if I live or die. Maybe that's enough." "I care," he said, and maybe it was a lie, or maybe it was the first true thing he'd said in 14 years. "I care so much it terrifies me." "Then prove it," Lily said simply. "Be there for Hope. Be the father to her that you weren't to me. Break the cycle." The transplant happened in December. Rachel called me from the hospital to tell me they were starting the procedure. that Lily's body was being flooded with Hope's cord blood, that they were watching and waiting to see if this miracle we'd all hoped for would actually take hold. We waited. I held Hope and told her stories about the sister she'd saved, the girl she wouldn't remember but who would always be connected to her by blood and bone marrow, and the simple fact that she'd carried hope into the world in more ways than one. 3 weeks later, Rachel called again. "It's working," she said, and her voice was pure joy. "The engraftment is happening. Her counts are rising. She's going to make it, Megan. Our girl is going to make it." I sobbed into the phone while Hope slept peacefully in her bassinet, unaware that she'd performed a miracle before she could even hold up her own head. David filed for divorce 2 months later. "I can't do this," he said. "I can't live with the guilt every time I look at Hope. I can't pretend to be someone I'm not. I can't be the father Lily asked me to be." "Then go," I said, and I wasn't even angry anymore. Just tired. Just sad for all the ways he was choosing to stay broken instead of trying to heal. He left, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Lily's transplant took. She went into remission. Her hair grew back, darker than before, but thick and healthy. She started dancing again. Rachel and I became friends, bonded by our daughters and our shared history with a man who'd failed us both, but somehow given us the greatest gifts of our lives. When Hope turned 1, we had a birthday party with 2 families, mine and Rachel's. Lily helped Hope blow out her candles and wore a shirt that said "Big Sister" in sparkly letters. "Do you think she'll understand someday?" Rachel asked me, watching the girls together. "Do you think Hope will understand what she did?" "I'll make sure she does," I said. "I'll tell her that she was born carrying hope for someone else, that before she could walk or talk or even know her own name, she saved a life." "That's a pretty incredible origin story." "The best kind of superhero," Rachel agreed. "David sends child support every month. He never visits. He never calls. He sent a birthday card when Hope turned 2, signed simply Dad, with no personal message, no acknowledgement of who we'd become without him. I don't mourn what we lost anymore. I mourn what he's missing. I mourn the relationship he'll never have with either of his daughters, but mostly I'm grateful that Rachel showed up on my doorstep with the truth wrapped in a manila envelope, grateful that I chose compassion over comfort, grateful that Hope came into this world carrying exactly what her name promised. She's 4 now, my little miracle girl, and Lily is 18, heading to college to study veterinary medicine like she always dreamed. They FaceTime every Sunday. Lily reads Hope stories about dragons and princesses. Hope shows Lily her latest crayon masterpieces. They're building a relationship that has nothing to do with bone marrow or transplants or the father who abandoned one and barely knows the other. They're just sisters. Half-sisters who became whole through a choice I made on a rainy morning when a desperate woman showed up at my door asking me to see beyond my own life and into someone else's desperate need. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd turned Rachel away, if I'd chosen my marriage over Lily's life, if I'd let fear and pride keep me from doing the right thing. But then Hope laughs, or Lily sends me a picture of herself in her college dorm, alive and thriving and full of future, and I know that every choice I made was exactly right. My husband's ex-wife showed up at our door holding my daughter's birth certificate, and instead of slamming the door on her pain, I opened it wide and let the truth come flooding in. That truth destroyed my marriage, but saved a life and built a family from the wreckage of secrets and lies. And I'd make the same choice 1,000 times over. What would you do if you discovered your husband had hidden a child from you? Would you help a stranger's daughter, even if it meant upending your entire life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about impossible choices, family secrets, and the ways love grows in the most unexpected places. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the most important thing we can carry into this world is hope for someone else.